Fifth chapter. Tale of Priyavrata. Hearing the tale of Pracheta's devotion and receiving God's grace by them, a curiosity arose in the mind of the king Parikshit about self-knowledge and grihast dharma, duties of a married person. He asked Shukdev, O Brahman, Priyavrat was a supreme devotee and self-indulgent. Why did he then live in grihasthi, married life? Married life is binding from all sides. Great men never long for married life. Even then the king Priyurta lived a married life, yet he regularly prayed to God. This is an intriguing subject for me. Kindly remove my doubts. 844. Seeing Parikshit's curiosity and doubts, Sri Shukdev said, O king, you are right that once receiving God's grace one can't leave it. No attachment, no love remains in him for life. The Prince Priyurta was a great devotee of God, Bhagwad Bhakta. By the grace of Narada he had instinctively become aware of Paramarth Tattva, knowledge that leads to salvation. He had dedicated all his actions into the feet of Lord Vasudeva. Thus, an intense inclination for detachment developed in Priyavrata since his childhood. So, Lord Brahma tried to admonish him. Son, you are too young yet to be an ascetic. Since the moment you have acquired the human body, enemies like Kama, sex, Krodh, anger, Moha, affection, Lobh, greed, Mada, ego, Matsar, jealousy, etc. have been continuously chasing it. We are all bound to follow the path laid down by God. We should serve Him by our action, accepting our body, which the God has given to us, and the merits associated with it. Hence, you first enjoy the luxuries given by God, thereafter you will be free to do what you wish. Thus, as per the dictate of Lord Brahma, the king Priyavrata accepted 2 wives. His first wife was Prajapati Vishwakarma's daughter Barhismati. She begot 10 sons: Agnidhra, Idnjiv, Yagyabahu, Mahavir, Miranarita, Savan, Medhatithi, Thriprishth, Vitihotra and Kavi. Priyavrat's second wife begot 3 sons: Uttam, Raivat and Tamas. Out of these 10 sons, 3 became celibate. All the 3 sons from the second wife became the lords of different manvantaras. Despite leading married life, the king remained an ascetic. In his chariot, he traveled around the land and divided it into 7 parts and appointed each of his 7 sons as the lord of one island. Agnidhra, the eldest son, was given Jambudvip. He was married to an Apsara Puruchitti. She had begotten 9 sons, who became the ruler of the 9 parts of Jambudvip. Merudevi was the wife of Agnidhra's eldest son Nabhi. As a gift of Yagya, Lord had taken an incarnation in his home. That incarnation of Lord is known as Rishbhadev. Tale of Bharatha. 845. Rishbhadev was married to Jayanti, the daughter of Indra. Jayanti gave birth to 100 sons. Bharatha was the eldest among them. The youngest 9 sons became Yogeshwars. 81 sons accepted Brahmanism. Remaining 9 brothers followed their elder brother Bharatha. One day Rishbhadev called a meeting of his sons and preached them about the well-being of human beings. Sons, he said, never misuse this human body. You have got this human life by great luck and God's grace. He does not deserve to be called as a friend, teacher or father who does not preach his friend, disciple or son about the welfare of the self. Preaching that Rishbhadev enthroned Bharatha and himself departed for his supreme abode. The king Bharatha was a great devotee. By his father's permission he had married to Panchajam, the daughter of Vishwarupa. They begot 5 sons. Bharatha dedicated his religious actions to Lord Vasudeva. Thus by the purification of his actions, his conscience was also purified. So he transferred the kingdom to his son, and himself took an abode in Pulhashrama, hermitage of Pulha, on the banks of the river Gandaki. There he passed his time in the worship of God. One fine morning, when he was performing libations in the river, a pregnant doe arrived on the opposite bank to drink water. At that time a lion roared somewhere in the forest behind her. Frightened by the roar, the doe jumped into the river to save her life. But the doe lost her life in the action while her fetus fell in the river. Feeling pity for the fawn, Rajarshi Bharatha took it and began to foster it. Day by day Bharatha's affection grew for the fawn. Slowly he became irregular in his daily routine. But Bharatha loved the fawn more than his routine. When the fawn grew into a deer, by its natural instinct it joined its mates. On his return, Bharatha did not find the deer and grew so restless that he died out of depression. As his mind was fixed on the deer at death, he was born in his next birth as a deer. Bharatha was a prudent man, but affection did not spare even him. 846. What would be the fate of common people then? They are easy targets of the feelings and are more vulnerable to fall prey to attachment and affection. When a derangement occurs in the intellect of man, he begins to conduct irreligiously, but thinks that his behavior is religious. Realizing his mistake, Bharatha, as a deer, came to his hermitage and once again began his penance before God. Even in deer incarnation, Bharatha had a strong feeling of detachment. When Bharatha's deer incarnation ended, he took his next birth in a Brahman's home. Sometime after the birth, his mother died. By God's grace, Bharatha had remembrance of his previous birth. So he always remained immersed in reflection on Hari, God. To avoid attention, he posed himself as an insane, stupid, blind, and deaf person. Even his brothers neglected him, seeing his inertia. Now he was free to wander at will. He was satisfied with what he got and doing menial jobs. During that period, a thief who had no son wanted to offer a human sacrifice to Bhadrakali in desire of a son. Searching a right person for the sacrifice, his men found and caught Jadabharatha. In Brahman incarnation, Bharatha was known by this name because of his inactivity, who was guarding his farms then. Jadabharatha remained quite indifferent and did not even resist his kidnapping. The thieves took him into the temple. There, as soon as the chief of the thieves raised his sword to kill Jadabharatha, Bhadrakali appeared from the idol and beheaded all the thieves. It shows that one has to bear the fruit himself of the crime committed. But Jadabharatha did not experience this and remained quite unmoved as before. In another incident, the king Rahugna of Sindhu was riding a palanquin to the hermitage of the sage Kapila. On the way, he fell short for one kahar, carrier of the palanquin. His men found Jadabharatha, who was wandering nearby, and yoked him also in carrying the palanquin. Jadabharatha was walking cautiously so as not to tread on even little creatures. Hence, the king was getting jerks and a bumpy ride. He scolded at the kahars. The kahars. 847 informed him that the new recruit was causing him those jerks. The king Rahungana then scolded at Jadabharatha. Hey, are you so frail that you can't balance the palanquin properly? Don't you know that your master is riding in it? Wait, I will teach you a lesson. Jadabharatha stood fearlessly. The king was stunned to see him. It was then that Jadabharatha opened his mouth to utter his first words. He felt that he had carried the king on his shoulders. And though the king was a haughty man, but my life will be a sheer wastage if I don't preach the king a way to salvation. So with a desire of benefiting the king, Jadabharatha said, O king, life and death, strength and weakness are the virtues of the body. But the soul is sinless. I have put all my burden on the shoulders of the God. You too have great burden on your head. Lord of everyone is one. Even your senses are not in your control. How then will you control your subjects? O king, only knowledge is the form of the soul. By knowledge alone you can recognize the soul. Union with one homogeneous and holy Supreme Being is the true introspection. But as long as you don't bear the dust of great men's feet on your head, you will not recognize the god. Hearing these words, the king Rahungana fell at the feet of Jadabharatha and begged his pardon. Jadabharatha then preached the king about the metaphysical knowledge. Listening to the tales of the god continuously is the only way to concentrate one's mind in Sri Hari. In my previous birth, I was the king of Bharatavash. But because of my attachment for a deer, I was deviated from the path of supreme knowledge. Hence, I had to take birth in deer form. But by the grace of Lord Krishna, memory of my previous birth persisted in a deer incarnation also. So in my present birth I prefer to stay away from the people and wander secretly. So, from now on drop your attachments and start reciting God's name. By the virtues of his tale alone you will easily get him. O king, the body is like a merchant who is roaming on the earth borrowing this wealth of age. It has lost its wealth in useless worldly affairs. One day arrow of the cull will snatch everything from it. So, the human being must utilize their invaluable moments in the training of the supreme knowledge. 848. Description of the extent of the landmass. Hearing the tale of the king Priyavrat's lineage, Parikshit asked Shukdev, O great sage, what is the expanse of the landmass? I wish to hear a description of it along with its islands, because this world is a tangible idol of God along with his virtues. Hence, knowing it intangible, infinitesimal form of God can also be known. Shukdev said, O king, illusions created by God are so vast that nobody can find their end. Therefore, I will describe main features of the world with the help of name, appearance, extent and symptoms. King Priyavrata has divided the earth into 7 islands. These islands are 1. Jambudvip, 2. Lakshadvip, 3. Shalmalidvip, 4. Kushdvip, 5. Kraunchdvip, 6. Shakdvip and 7. Pushkardvip. All these islands are surrounded by 7 seas, which comprise of saline water, sugarcane juices and wine, ghee, milk, whey and sweet water respectively. Extent of each island is double than that of its preceding one. Jambudvip. Shukdev says, situated in the center of the world is Jambudvip. It has an extent of 1 lakh yojan. It has a round shape like a lotus leaf. It has 9 zones each with an extent of 9,000 yojan. These zones are called Varsh. 8 mountain ranges mark the boundaries of these Varsh, which are arranged in circular fashion. At the center of the Varsh is the 10th Varsh named Illavrit. In the center of Illavrit is Meru. Names of other 9 Varsh are Kinpurusha, Harivarsh, Kamyak, Hiramay, Kuru, Bhadrashva, Ketumal and 849. Bharatha. Such as the Mount Meru is surrounded by Jamudvip, similarly Jamudvip is surrounded by a vast sea. Because of a majority of jamun, blackberry, trees, this island is named as Jambudvip. Lakshadweep, as there is a huge jamun, blackberry, tree that is 1100 yojan high in Jambudvip. Similarly, there are innumerable pluksh, Pachyphycus pinctoria, trees in Lakshadweep, hence its name. Agni, fire, is the venerable god in this island. Priyavrata's son, King Indrav, was the ruler of this island. He divided it into 7 parts and made his 7 sons the ruler of these divisions. These 7 divisions were named Shiv, Yavas, Subhadra, Shant, Shem, Amrit and Abhay. These divisions have 7 mountains and 7 rivers. Lakshadweep has an extent of 2 lakh yojans. It is surrounded by an ocean of sugarcane juice. Shalmalidweep, just double in extent than Lakshadweep, is Shalmalidweep. It has a majority of Shalmali, silk cotton, trees, which comprise the abode of Garuda, the king of the birds. Priyavrata's son Yagyabahu was the ruler of this island. He too made 7 divisions in the island as per his sons, Surocham, Devvarsh, Paribhadra, Ramanak, Somanasya, Apyayan and Avigya. This island too has 7 mountains and 7 rivers. 4 classes of people inhabit this island. They worship Vedmai Chandrama, the moon with Vedas. This island is surrounded by a sea of wine. Kushdweep. This island is surrounded by a sea of the ghee. It has an extent of 8 yojans and a majority of kush shrubs. From the light of their tips, kush shrubs illuminate this island. 850. Priyavrata's son Hiranyarta was the ruler of this island. Dividing the island into 7 divisions, he too appointed his 7 sons as the ruler of each of these divisions. These divisions are Vasu, Vasuddhana, Driruchruchi, Nabhigupta, Stutyavrata, Vivikta and Vamde. People of Kushdweep worship the fire. Crotchweep. With an extent of 16 lakh yojan, Crotchdweep is surrounded by the Sea of Milk. There is a gigantic mountain named Cronch on the Dweep. After this mountain, the island is known as Crotchweep. Priyavrata's son, King Ghritapristha, was the ruler of this island. He too divided the island into 7 divisions and distributed them between his 7 sons, 1 to each son. The names of these 7 sons are Am, Madhuru, Megprisht, Sudhama, Mrajisht, Lohitarn and Vanaspati. Inhabitants of the island worship Varundev, Nepachun, the Lord of Water. Shakadweep. Surrounded by the Sea of Wei is Shakadweep, with an extent of 32 lakh yojans. It has a huge tree of shaka, hence its name. With the sweet fragrance of this tree, the whole island emits a pleasant scent. The ruler of this island, Medhatithi, was also a son of Priyavrata. He too had 7 sons, Purojav, Manojav, Pavamana, Dhumranik, Chitraref, Bahurup and Vishwadhar. They were made the rulers of the 7 divisions of the island. People of the island use pranayam to weaken their rajoguna and tamoguna and worship Hari, Vishnu, in Vayu form through meditation. Pushkardvip. Pushkardvip has an extent of 64 yojans. It is surrounded by a sea of sweet water. There is present a huge lotus flower with 1,000,000 golden petals. This lotus is regarded as a seat of Brahma. Priyavrata's son Vitihotra was the ruler of this island. He divided the island into 2 divisions and made his sons Ramanak and Dhatki the rulers of these divisions. Inhabitants of this island worship Brahma appearance of Sri Hari, Vishnu.